Show, A Walk in My Shoes. I'm your host, Daniel, and I'm excited today to present our guest today. It's Debora Flora. She is the executive director for the Mahoning County Land Bank. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a welcome to Debora Flora. Deborah, how are you today?
Hello, Daniel. I'm great. Thanks.
Yes,
Thank you
good.
to you and to the Columbus Literacy Council for the opportunity to speak.
Oh, yes. Thank you. And thank you for taking time to letting us walk in your shoes. So I'm really curious to walk in your shoes and to learn more exactly of what you do. So what is, if you can explain, what is Mahoning County Land Bank?
The County Land Bank is one of actually 59 county land banks in the state of Ohio. And we compare to community improvement corporations, and you can take that very literally. We are here to improve conditions in communities. And that has to do with, sorry.
You're okay.
Oh. That has to do with the condition of housing, the condition of unused land in neighborhoods. It has to do with business and commercial property. It's about anywhere where property is vacant and unused or underutilized, and figuring out ways that we can make it better so that people feel better about where they live, work, yes, go to school, that they enjoy where they are.
Okay. And how do they reach out to you? Is it someone like in the neighborhood? Is it someone driving by?
Yes, people contact us routinely. One of the things that we do, kind of the bread and butter of the land bank, if you live next door to an empty lot and the owner doesn't cut the grass or keep it clean, but you do it because you want it to look good like your own house, then you can call us and we'll try to work with you to determine if we can make you the owner of that property. You'll have a larger yard in the end, and we'll have one less property that can be underloved, as we say. And when you have too many underloved properties in one small area, it kind of brings the whole place down. So we're trying to do the opposite, is to build up.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really great. Now, as far as like making, if I'm cutting the grass, you said you could probably make my lot bigger. Is there, so you are in charge of like paperwork and getting all that set? Yes.
Legal process that goes with owning property. And we want people to own property, and they know that we'll have no old bills attached to it, that they'll have outright ownership of it. And so, yes, we do whatever is necessary to make that happen.
Okay, awesome. And Deborah, if you could explain your role or your position in this job.
So my title is executive director. This is a small organization. There are 6 of us in all working here right now. So I'm responsible to make sure that everything is operating the way it should in the office. I'm responsible for approving bill payments and signing checks. I am responsible to a 9-member volunteer board of directors that wants to know that we're meeting some of the mission and our goals of the organization, which again is the revitalization of vacant and abandoned property. Because we're in our 10th anniversary year right now, we've planned a pretty good celebration that will happen throughout the year. And I had to lead the planning for that, working with our marketing firm to do a video series, some publications, some online communications that are both reminders of some of the things that we've done, but more importantly, shining a light on the great work that people have done when they've partnered with the land bank and how they've taken our efforts even further to make for better communities.
Oh, that's awesome. And as partners, are you reaching out to partners or the partners, or is it vice versa, to get partners to work with you?
It does go both ways. In the city of Youngstown, for example, this is the county seat here in Mahoning County. There are community groups that are active, and they will identify problems, and then they'll go looking for the land bank or maybe the appropriate city department to help them to unpack this issue. Someone may have died in a house and they didn't leave the house to anyone, and so no one is caring for it.
I see.
The property taxes are accumulating. The paint is peeling on the outside. The grass is high. So there are lots of moving parts to those sorts of issues. We may be one of the entities that they bring in to say, all right, what can we do to change this? We may be the entity that asks for tax foreclosure to happen so that we can assign the property to a new owner who will take care of the property, right? And in some cases, you know, a house may have been uncared for so long that there really is no other option except to tear it down. We have coordinated a lot of demolition activities where that has been necessary. And we've done that with funding that came from other sources. It's costly to do a demolition, and we've had a lot of it to be done here. So we had to find some external funding, and we've been successful at that also. But we've also, behind a demolition, we've put in pocket parks so that the people of the neighborhood have a new place to go and relax and enjoy. We've done some things that add some beauty. It may not be a park where you go sit per se, but we will plant trees and flowers and things like that so that there's a new visual in that block and that people have something else to focus on. We also are interested in trying to help businesses that are just getting started to have a property of their own to make their businesses grow and flourish. That's sort of a new endeavor for us here. We've done a lot about neighborhood conditions, and now we're expanding to include some help with business development.
That is so awesome. So like a business who's starting, like, do you renovate inside, or are you doing the outside, or it just depends? Like, what kind of businesses would you reach out?
So one of the problems that we have in Youngstown, we have in neighborhoods some older buildings that once upon a time had a market on the first floor, and then on the second and third floors, those were apartments, right? A lot of those buildings have been abandoned now. They needed some repair. They need some upgrades also. The electrical systems are not necessarily modern. So they've stood empty for a long time. And there are many land banks like ours who would take a building like that and try to figure out a way to have new occupants and new life in that building. It might still be a combination of business and living space in there, but it becomes productive again when we do that. So that means bringing the building into our inventory, and either we find the partner who's going to fix it up, or maybe we spend some of our resources to fix it up, and that way it is usable again. And, you know, we're probably not the only city in Ohio that maybe doesn't have enough grocery stores right in neighborhoods to serve people's immediate needs, right? So if we find somebody who wants to open a small grocery store, then we're solving a neighborhood problem while we're also putting that property back into play.
Wow. Wow, that's so awesome. And Deborah, how did you get into this? How did you...
It's a very odd path, very, very odd. So first of all, because I know we're talking to young people here today, first of all, when I was a college student a long time ago, I went to Youngstown State University, and my major when I got there was medical technology. And I thought that was going to be a stepping stone to becoming a medical examiner. If you watch shows right now like NCIS or FBI, you know, in cases of unusual deaths, there's usually a doctor who's trying to figure out what exactly happened, right? I thought that was going to be me a long time ago, based on a different TV show. But when I got into the major, I found out it wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be. And I was very bad at one of the basic things that you had to do in medical technology. I was bad at drawing somebody else's blood. I was so bad that I was doing it to my best friend who was also in the same program with me. And the first time I did it right, I got so excited, I stuck the needle right back into her arm.
No.
Because I was like this, yay!
I did it.
I got it
did
like that, right? So I pretty much realized that maybe I didn't have the best basis for picking my career choice.
Yes.
I stayed at YSU. I was an undeclared major for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'd had some strength in writing, some teachers, professors started to encourage me to do more writing, which ended up being for the college newspaper. And so I actually became a newspaper reporter. My major was English. My minor was journalism, and I became a newspaper reporter here in Youngstown, and I did that for 17 years.
Wow.
And then when I had my own child after 17 years, and I didn't want to have the lifestyle of a reporter anymore, I made a shift into government, which led me here. I know it's weird. It's weird, right? It's very odd way of getting to one career, but that's how it worked.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah, you're right. It's pretty strange how you got there too. So let's go back to from the very beginning. So where did you grow up? And just let's.
Sure. Most of my family is from the Pennsylvania area, but I grew up in Niles, which is only 12 minutes away from Youngstown.
Okay.
I went to public schools. Like I said, I went to Youngstown State and graduated in '89. My first job was working for the Vindicator, which was the daily newspaper here. And so I was a reporter covering all sorts of stories. And I will say that my experience at the newspaper helped me to get to know Mahoning County and its communities. And that has been a great platform for what I do now. That knowledge of communities has always helped me as I made this switch into something else.
Okay. And you said you studied, you went to, I'm sorry, what did you study? I just.
Ultimately, I got a bachelor's degree in English.
In English.
So I was a liberal arts major. And that's something that, I guess people don't think about so much now as they used to, but a liberal arts education means that you have some flexibility to go in many different directions. A liberal arts education means that you have a kind of a well-rounded education in a lot of subjects. In my case, I had some emphasis in communication. Communication never goes out of style, no matter what career anybody's talking about. It will always be essential. And so to have that as a basis for your career life I think is wonderful. Always consider what communications will mean to whatever you may be choosing or chasing as a career.
Yeah, that's right. So communication, you're right, is really important. Like, you could say one thing and I heard it another way, but if you communicate or understand each other, you can be able to reach out and communicate that you guys are on the same level or on the same page, I should say. And Deborah, has COVID affected your job? Or?
It has. We have always been an office that had its doors open to people, and they may have been referred to us, and maybe we weren't the solution for their problem, but we at least enjoyed the conversation with people and would try to point them in the right direction. But we've had to keep our office doors closed since the height of the first wave of the pandemic. We do still take people's phone calls. We'll email with them. We would even do Skype or Zoom with them if they wanted to. But it's not the same as being face-to-face with someone, because not only are you talking to them about their situation, you're learning something about them.
Yes.
And that face-to-face dialogue is something that I do miss. I understand why we have to do it this way for now. I also look forward to the day when we don't have to do it this way any longer.
Yeah, that's right. Learning something new. Zoom, and good thing for Zoom and Skype that we're able to at least have that face while we're talking and trying to help or listen to the story.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. What are some skills that are necessary to do the work that you do?
So my colleagues and I all have different backgrounds, and it's what each of us brings to the table that I believe makes this land bank very strong. Our fiscal officer has a bachelor's degree in accounting, and she does accounting work here every day, right? Whether it's payroll or keeping our bills paid or producing reports about where our expenditures have gone for calendar year 2020. You know, this is the beginning of a new year, so she has to do those annual reports right now. Another one of my colleagues has his degree in environmental science with a minor in geology. So if we're talking about fixing a building or having to tear down a building that has some asbestos in it, he's better versed to know kind of the ins and outs of how that should be done properly because of his background. Another one of my colleagues has a really great background in information technology. We make decisions, you know, if you came in our office, we'd be talking about what you need in your particular situation. But what's going on around your house in, say, a 1 mile radius? If you know how to get data, and if you know how to look at the data and spot trends, then you can say, well, you know what? What's happening to Daniel isn't only happening to Daniel. It's happened to 27 other people in a 1 mile radius around him. Maybe there's something else that needs to be happening in order to improve neighborhood conditions there, because Daniel isn't the only person saying that he's got a problem on his hands.
Wow.
So if you like information, if you like IT and computers, and you think about learning, again, where do you get data from that's valuable to your situation? And then how do you look at that data to look for those trends and to have better informed work in front of you? It's a really critical thing right now, really critical thing. So anybody who likes to tinker on the computer and likes scrolling through things probably should think about IT because, data is a huge consideration for us.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're
and like anybody else, we have an administrative assistant who has a strong background in office management, right? How to keep the files properly filed and how to run the things that make the rest of us keep moving smoothly, right? You need that great support staff too.
Wow, that's so awesome, man. That's you're like you're five. What is it, Fave 5 or Fab? What's that saying? Or you said you have 6 people. Oh man, you know, like you're strong.
5 plus
core.
1.
But yeah, that's 6. You're right. So, Deborah, while working there, what are some obstacles that you have faced that were like really difficult and hard, or maybe it got to a point where you maybe said, you know what, well, maybe this is not me. Maybe I'm going to switch because it got so bad. How did you overcome it?
Well, honestly, I love this job so much that I haven't thought about switching.
Okay,
but that doesn't mean that we haven't had difficult days.
Yes.
Youngstown is a city that had a lot of people leave it over the course of some decades. And that happened because, like many other industrial cities, we stopped making things here. Not by choice, it's just the way that the world turned, right? But we ended up with a lot of empty steel mills and other types of factories. And if people didn't have work here, then they had to find it elsewhere. They may have found it in Columbus or some other cities or other states, right? But it meant that there was a lot of vacant property here that had to be dealt with. And it wasn't dealt with immediately. So when I came on board, in the city of Youngstown alone, there were at least 3,500 vacant, abandoned houses that were presenting all sorts of problems to the people who lived nearby. Not just the maintenance, that the grass wasn't being cut or the paint was peeling, but the increased risk of arson or other crimes in those properties. And the fact that with so many of those properties in one place, the city alone could not afford to take care of the issues. So we were working hard to find money so that we could add to the ability to remove those properties and improve neighborhood conditions. And we were successful, but what it meant was, boy, did we work some long hours, right? For years.
Yes.
Mind you, we did this for like 3 years, where my colleagues were working, 60-hour weeks, making sure that everything that had to happen was happening on schedule. We had a lot of laws that we had to meet. We're not a governmental body per se, but when you do a demolition of a property, the Environmental Protection Agency says you're going to do it like this. And so we had to keep moving in that direction so that everything was happening the way it should. So it was a lot of work, and there was a lot of record keeping that went with that. So we had a really, really challenging time, and ultimately we were successful. Yes. But it took a lot of effort.
Yes. Okay. And what helped? Is there something that you did to kind of help you remind you, I love my job, so maybe you did something on the side? I don't know if there was something that helped you just kind of calm down.
It was the bigger picture, knowing that, we needed to get this job done, that the community was going to be better off in the end for us having completed that mission. And in fact, I've said it's our 10th anniversary year. We have some data now from Youngstown State University. They're taking a look back at all that we did in that time, and they're showing us things that have improved because of that work. The fact that people are now they own properties that have higher value now because they don't have problem properties next to them. When you live next door to a house that could catch fire at any time or could collapse because it's in that poor of a condition, insurance companies, they look at that as a risk. And so the people who live next door might pay more for their insurance. Well, we've eliminated many of those risks. We're not completely done, but we've eliminated a number of those. So people have more security where they live. They have more contentment now where they live. They have the ability to sell their property at a higher likelihood than they probably did about 4 to 5 years ago. Because again, we addressed some of those problems that were not one person's problem, but entire neighborhoods' problems.
Okay. And so when you're helping out a neighborhood or something, I'm guessing it's the partners that you get with as far as that bring the supplies or the material that needs to happen. Is that all part of the coordination?
A lot of what we did by hiring contractors to perform it.
Okay.
But there is a huge thing that neighbors do, right? They can be the boots on the ground, certainly in identifying properties and calling attention to them. But also, when we've done some things about putting in a pocket park or, a pleasant space for people to look at, there have been ways for neighbors to participate in the creation of those spaces and certainly the maintenance of those spaces afterwards so that we can keep them going. We think we're a mighty organization, but we're small in our numbers. We really need those neighbors to help us too.
Yes. And it seems like you guys might be small, but it seems like you guys are doing the job. Like you guys are really reaching out, or they're reaching out to you. So it's mostly like word of mouth. Like, so I forget, Mahoning, the Mahoning.
You got it, Mahoning.
Yeah. It's just different, Mahoning. What you guys do. And man, that's so awesome. So do you guys, I know like this is by grants, I believe, or just partnership. Do they help out, I'm guessing, the building you are now? Like some of the supplies that may be left over? Did they say, hey, we have extra supplies, or do they just take those supplies back?
Some of our contractors have been very generous with us. And so, yes, they've left some things for us that we could reuse in other situations. And we're happy. I mean, we have worked with some really great contractors over the years to get things done. So they have a community spirit also, and that's very reassuring for someone like me.
That's good. That's awesome. And do you report to a board of directors or? Yes?
I do. So we operate as a nonprofit organization, and this nonprofit has a 9-member board of directors. 3 of the 9 are office holders in Mahoning County government. It's the county treasurer and 2 of 3 county commissioners. Ohio law says they always must participate on the board of directors. After that, we have people who are representing either some certain geographies of the county, or they're representing aspects of the community like nonprofits or real estate professionals.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys again. This is a walk in my shoes. Now we're walking in Debora Flora's shoes. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope if you guys have any questions, anything you want me to ask her, please send it to me, and I'll be more than happy to share that. Ask that question to Deborah. Deborah, thank you again for joining us today. What is something, Deborah, that you wish you would have learned in school and not learned the hard way as you're the executive director?
I think I should have taken some psychology classes in school. I passed on that, right?
Yes.
And so understanding people and where their frustrations come from, and how I could be a better, I guess in one way I've always thought that I've been pretty good at problem solving. But if I had that psychology background, I think maybe I could do it at a higher level than what I do right now. So I guess I don't always understand human interactions sometimes. And if I was going to do one thing going back to college, yes, I would have taken 1 or 2 psychology courses. Better understand myself too. So
maybe it's just you. I'm kidding.
It could be. Maybe I would know that.
Yes. And Deborah, what is your favorite part about what you do?
There are lots of favorite parts.
Okay, that's fine.
One of them. And it was part of the demolition program that we were doing, because one of the rules of that program was after we tore down a really bad old house, we had to do something with the land afterward. At least we had to plant grass. We could do more than that, and there was a little bit of money to enable us to do that. But we had to do something with the land itself so that we weren't just creating another mess in the neighborhood. So we actually installed some pocket parks that are gorgeous. And I'm really proud of that. And it was a way for me to have some input into the way that things were going to ultimately look. It was a way for me to learn how to trust somebody who had skills that I didn't. I'm not a master gardener, right? But I could say, this is what I think would look great in this situation. And then they would make the right plant selections, and they knew exactly how to plant the bushes and everything so that they would thrive wherever they went. We have some beautiful spaces now in places where the people of the neighborhood gather. There's one space in particular I'm thinking of on the south side of Youngstown, where safe trick-or-treating has happened there. And there's a walkway that was poured through the middle of these couple properties, and kids ride their bikes on it. We have this incredibly big boulder that's anchoring one of the corners of the property, and kids climb it, get some exercise, or just sit on top and you know how fun that was.
Of course.
When you're 7 or 8 or something, but there was this large, old, long-time empty building there that went away, and in its place, we created a gathering space that people like and want to use. I don't know that there's any greater appreciation of what we do than that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're more comfortable where they are again. And we didn't fix everything. I'm not claiming that we did that, but we did bring them something unexpected that they reacted to in a very positive way. Those parks that we installed are probably some of my best memories here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I would be really proud too if I'm driving by and I see the park that I help get together and see all these kids and family hang out. Would really bring just a huge fulfillment. Just like, wow, I'm doing something great, not just.
And the reason that we wanted that park there is because another one of our partners was doing some other work in the neighborhood. They knew there was a high concentration of kids living there, and if they wanted to go to a city park, it was a 30-minute walk from where they live.
Oh man.
So the conditions called for us to do something like that there, right? So there you go, a perfect combination of having information and data.
Yes,
and
you're right.
Funds to correct one problem and to try to complement it by bringing in something else. And the neighbors, had input in what was happening because of our partner organization having done some intense work in that neighborhood. So there should always be that component to what we're doing here at the land bank. Otherwise, we're not going to succeed as we want.
Yes, that's right. And do you guys have internship, or is there a way one can volunteer? And if so, how can they do that?
Well, post-COVID, I hope we'll get back to some volunteer opportunities.
Right. Yes, that's right.
And I'm gonna give a plug for my alma mater, Youngstown State University. Okay. They have a wonderful internship program, and it runs through the business school. But within the business school, they have a nonprofit leadership institute. And a local foundation, the Raymond John Ween Foundation, helps to pay for interns to work full-time during the summer at various nonprofits. So awesome. I know that the people that are watching this right now, they've probably considered a lot of careers, maybe working for big businesses or such, right? I'm saying think about nonprofits, though, also. And YSU, as I said, has this great internship program. So what it means is we're getting another intern placed with us this summer. This is probably the 7th time that we've done this. The intern will be full-time. We'll be treated like a full-time employee here. We'll have specific work that will be for that person. Mm-hmm. They will get not a minimum wage, but what is a fair wage. They will get some benefit, enroll in a summer class, which is paid for through this program, and they're going to earn a couple more credit hours while they're learning about what it means to work for a nonprofit. It's great for the employers. It's great for the people who participate. And whether they're thinking they're going to be going into business or accounting or finance, mm-hmm. or maybe even something else, this internship opportunity is open to them. It's fantastic, and it's something that could be replicated elsewhere, but I'm really glad it started here at Youngstown State.
Wow, that's so awesome. Yeah, I think it's always, for me, I'm a hands-on person, so it's always good to kind of just get involved or just have someone there with me to help me to, this is how you do it, or this is a kind of a shadow. Just shadow someone and see.
I had a summer-long internship at the newspaper when I was a college student, and I knew that I was probably headed in that direction, and it really solidified my interest. I knew on the last day of my internship, I wanted to write for a newspaper. So I do encourage internships. By all means, look for them, get one. They can be great experiences. And if they're not a great experience, then maybe that wasn't the pathway for you anyway.
That's right. That's right. Did you guys hear that? Do it. Internship. And I know with COVID happening right now, do you see your team growing in 2021? I know you said you had 5 plus 1, which is 6. Do you see yourself, the company, growing?
Maybe more like 2022. Here's why. We know that there are conversations happening right now in all communities about what we're going to need to do when we're beyond the pandemic, because then we'll know the damage done. We know that people are very sick right now in some cases with COVID. We know that other people have lost their jobs because their type of job and COVID doesn't go together. So if you work in a restaurant or a hotel or something like that, we know that business is down, right? So there are so many things that we're going to have to do in the community to build ourselves back up to strength. And there definitely is a role for the county land banks to play in that. But we have a change of administration at the federal level. Next week, we'll have a new president. It is going to take time for some new programs that President-elect Biden favors. It's going to take time for them to be approved and to get to the point where an organization like mine can access funds to get this work going in Youngstown or Columbus or wherever else, right? So do I think it's happening in 21? I think those important conversations will happen in 21, and I think the legislative action will happen in 21. But to see it actually coming to communities, probably more like 2022. But definitely, I do see the potential for expansion of land banks, mine and others, to do all sorts of things. And it might be in-office work, and it might be boots on the ground work, and it likely will be both.
Wow. So, Deborah, take us to a typical day. So, okay, you heard about, I don't know, a neighbor, and what is something when you go into work, what's a typical day as far as what you have to do, who do you have to contact, just from morning to end?
Okay. Sure. Well, my day starts with taking my 15-year-old son to his high school, and then I run right down here to work, right? So in a typical day, there's certainly paperwork coming across my desk all day long. Somebody wants me to sign off to authorize. We need to repair some fencing on property that we own, right? I have to sign off on that. The fiscal officers bring me bills in mail, so I have to go through that. I have to sign off on some things. There always are phone calls and emails, and they may be coming from other partners, or they may be coming from the community and somebody calling to our attention that there's something wrong here, right? We think that this house has been abandoned and what can be done. So those are the constants of my day every day, right? I also have some other responsibility outside of the land bank itself. There's an organization called the Ohio Land Bank Association. And so any of the 59 land banks in Ohio can belong to the association. I happen to be on the board of directors. So I have some additional responsibilities related to that. How are we communicating to the member organizations? Are we well informed about what's happening statewide? Not just where we are in our county, but are we well informed about what's happening statewide? And what are we going to do about that, right? We pursue funding. We pursue new legislation to make our work more effective. So I have a layer of that in my everyday also. There are committee meetings that I have to prepare for with my board. There are full board meetings, again, that I have to prepare for. We recently hired a marketing agency to help us to get our message to the community. So I have communications with the marketing team every day, from as simple as, what are we going to put on Facebook and Twitter today, to so here's the 10-year impact report, all printed and ready to go.
Yes.
How are we going to put this out for people to read and respond to?
Okay.
I'm never bored here. Never, ever bored.
It's different, pretty much. It's the same, but different, I guess, every day. What is your average time that you're finished with work? I know you said sometimes it's longer, but you normally go home.
So, yeah, I have the luxury of only living 3 miles away from where I work. So I don't have to worry about a long commute like people in Columbus. Yeah.
Yes.
So some days maybe it is a straight 8-hour day, and other days it isn't. On days, there have been days where I've had to go to Columbus and back in the same day. I just did that a month ago. So that's more like a 14-hour day.
Yes.
But we do what we have to.
Yes. So, Deborah, how do you balance work and life? Like home, family?
And I'm glad you asked that question. It's a really big consideration, I think, for young people, right? When I was a young person and I went to write at the newspaper, I was single. I got my own apartment, right? I didn't have a lot of heavy lifting or responsibility in my personal life. So if I spent a lot of time at the newspaper, doing my work, writing stories and such, I just went home and I kind of rolled into bed and that was that, and had my
Yes.
free time on the weekends to do things with my friends. But at my age now, I'm married. I have a son. I have
Yeah.
other family members that, I want to be with. So it is important to me that I have some time to do my other business and take care of things. And clearly, I do have that balance here at the land bank. I'm not on deadline every day like I was at the newspaper.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have to get a call in the middle of the night when I'm here like I did at the newspaper because something was happening and somebody had to be on the scene right away. It's not the same thing, right?
Yes.
So I work, as a salaried employee. I can set my hours, and I set them based on my own needs sometimes, but I certainly set them based on the organization's needs and the community's needs. So most of my hours are daytime, but I do some evening speaking to community groups. I do speaking. I've been in front of the Ohio legislature several times, providing testimony to House representatives and senators about why I think certain laws should be changed. I've had a lot of great experiences here, and I really appreciate the richness of that here. But I also do not feel deprived in any way of the time that I want to be with my family and friends.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, yeah, because family is important, and sometimes it's kind of hard.
Yes.
To balance them out. Like it's either one or the other, or especially starting off in your career, and how to, what comes first, what doesn't, and the kids, or
Right.
It's like it is tough. It is tough. With one word, Deborah, what best describes you? What is one word that would describe you? If there was one
Me.
word. Yes, you. Not me.
That word would be stubborn.
Oh, no. Really?
I put stubborn to good use here, though, because
Okay.
we're dealing with some long-term issues, right? We're dealing with long-term property abandonment here. We're dealing with long-term economic disinvestment in Youngstown. And so being stubborn means, yeah, it gets tough, but I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to stop,
All
right?
Okay, I like that.
So you have to be flexible when you work with people, right? I have a vision in a lot of cases, sure, but the end product isn't purely my vision. If this is community work, it needs to be the vision of many people.
Yes.
And so I think that I'm a little less stubborn in those situations, but I am entirely stubborn about fighting for the community.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good. All right. I like how you switch that up, because stubborn, we're like, oh, no, here we go. But good, in a positive way. So, Deborah, what's the next big thing for you guys right now? What's the next vision or something that you want?
So one of the things, and Youngstown and elsewhere, but one of the hot button topics right now is housing and the need for quality, affordable housing for everyone, right? And so as we see the housing market here changing, it's actually getting a little bit tighter here than it has been. I think that we're part of the reason for that because we removed some houses that nobody should have been living in, right?
Yes.
And so people are looking for buying or rental opportunities, and there isn't the same number here as before. But people also aren't being taken advantage of by being, sold or put into a really lousy house. But what it means for us is we want to still be a provider of quality, affording housing opportunities, and that is becoming more challenging here. So we're going to keep working hard at finding some of those opportunities and making houses available. We do it in two ways. One way is that you can buy it all fixed up from us at a very good rate, or we can provide a fixer-upper to somebody who can demonstrate that they have the skills to fix it up, that they have the time to fix it up, and that they'll be able to get the resources to fix it up. In that case, they're buying at a much reduced price, but we're going to make sure that they follow through on that project. That's a program that's very near and dear to us, we have to keep finding the houses to put into that program and keep it going.
Wow. So are you the starter of this? I know you say you hear from communities or you hear from neighbors, and they reach out to you, correct? To your company. And then you're the one that gets it done pretty much. Finds people, gets partnerships.
Yeah, we become a problem solver in many situations. That's true. But our lane really is the vacant and abandoned properties. We're not like a real estate agency, right? We're in that very specific lane of trying to address the situations that are going unnoticed and are becoming unbearable. But yeah, we can, if we're not the solution, then maybe it's our partner, Youngstown Neighborhood Development Corporation, another nonprofit that can help people in ways that are different than what we do. Or maybe they really do need to talk to city government and a particular department in city government. So we're problem solvers in that way, because if it doesn't fit our lane, then we're trying to point people in the right direction, because we don't want people to be frustrated and just throw their hands up and say, I've had it. I'm out of here. I'm not going to do anything anymore.
She is stubborn.
That's not the way to build it. It's not the way to build community, though, is to let people remain frustrated. So we do as much as we can in that lane of vacant abandoned property. And otherwise, then we're just trying to tell people, here's who you need so that problem will be solved.
Awesome. Awesome. And so how do you keep yourself continued in the education in your field? Like, are you reading up articles or newspaper to help you?
Yes. There are state and national resources for someone like me to be well informed about what's happening. That Ohio Land Bank Association I mentioned a few months ago, we have networking meetings on a quarterly basis. They're virtual for now. They were in person before. They'll go back to in person at some point, but we usually meet in Columbus now, and so that people can get together and they can talk about common issues, or they can learn about something that somebody else is doing that maybe isn't a problem their way yet, but it could be, and they'll be better informed if that happens. Then there also is a national organization that's called the Center for Community Progress. And they are all about vacant land issues as well. And that's a place to go. You could meet 1,000 or more people who are doing the same type of work, but they're coming from every place in the United States, right?
Yeah.
You know, the problems that we have here in Ohio are also problems in Michigan, Indiana, the state of New York, Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, and the list goes on, right? We're not alone in this issue. And you can hear some really great and different approaches as to how people are problem solving elsewhere. I love going to their conference is not annual, it's about every 18 months. And it's usually in a place that has some success stories to share.
Awesome.
And they have bus trips, so that instead of just sitting and listening to somebody talk, you can get on a bus and it'll stop at these various points and you can get out and see and hear like how this place has been transformed. So those are great opportunities, really, really enriching.
Oh, definitely. That's really inspiring, really, to help you out. You know what? That's right. I am going to do it. I'm going to make it. Excuse me again. Can you work in this field without a degree, or do you?
Yes, you can. So in Ohio, most of my peers, the other executive directors, a fair number of them are actually practicing attorneys. Okay. And there is value in that to have that really great knowledge of law to apply to the situation. But again, my degree was in English from Youngstown State. I have a bachelor's degree. Yes. I do not have a master's. There are people working here at the land bank who do and do not have degrees, but they're particularly good at what they do. Yes. And that is what mattered to us when we hired them.
Okay.
So there are many opportunities when it comes to land bank, because there are so many facets to it. Yes. It depends on what that particular organization is doing and who they need to get it done.
Awesome, awesome. Deborah, this has been really educational, really opening that you're helping out the community, remodeling, demolishing, all of the above, and then just to see the end result of a park or, seeing kids there. It's been really great for us, for those that are watching. We want to thank you again, Deborah, for being part. Just one last question. What is a final advice that you have for those that are watching right now? Something that, just an advice for them right now.
If you are still thinking about your career path, I know that some people want to apply pressure to you to say you have to make up your mind, right? You've got to have a plan. And I'm talking to you as somebody who was very confident that she had a plan and found out that my plan was not at all reflective of my mind or my soul, okay? Explore. Do all the exploring that you can. Don't let them put that pressure on you saying that you have to have a plan. You will have to have a plan at some point, right? But if you're just still torn between things, explore, explore, explore. Do whatever you can to take a look at those things that you like, whether it's a volunteer, a one-day workshop, do anything, but just keep exploring. Don't get discouraged. You will find your way. And I'm somebody who actually I'm on my second career now, because once I did make up my mind and I went to the newspaper, my life circumstances changed and I made a different turn. I pivoted, right? Pivot is a word that a lot of people use right now. But I pivoted in a way where those first 17 years of my career still had value and added value to what I do now. So one thing can lead to another. Don't panic. Don't put that pressure on yourselves. Keep your minds open and always explore, and you'll get there.
Awesome. Deborah, thank you so much. And guys, thank you for watching A Walk in Your Shoes. We interviewed Debora Flora, and I hope you had a great time. I'll see you guys next week for another special guest. Again, let's give a nice, great applause for Deborah. Deborah, thank you so much again for taking time. A shout out from Kayla. She says hi. She loves you, as always. You got that. All right, awesome, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us and walking your shoes. I'm your host, Daniel. I'll see you next week, guys.